Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NBA and the NFL. Got a brand new video for you guys. We got a nice large slate in the association tonight. But before I get started with the video, like always, I appreciate, ladies and gentlemen, you guys drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, first time here, never seen any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos, the only thing you have to do to become a part of the DFS Zone community here is subscribe down below and make sure you put on those post notifications, that bell icon, turn that sucker on. This way you don't miss out on any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos. With that being said, we have a 10-game slate in the association today. Is it 10 games? I think it's 9 games. 9 games. It's actually 10 games with the 6 o'clock game, but on FanDuel, you got 9 games on the slate today. So 9 games on the slate today. I got a value 5 and a stud 5 for you guys for today, and we're going to jump right into it right off the back like we normally do. We're going to go right over to point guard. At point guard today, man, the Chris Paul, Ben Simmons, now granted, Westbrook is still a game-time decision. If you want to play Westbrook, you can. He's coming off an ankle injury. I always hear, you can always hear from me, I always prefer to see a guy play 1 or 2 games first before jumping back on the bandwagon. So Russell Westbrook was someone I definitely would fade for 11 grand, especially. You need about 55 for that. Chris Paul defense versus Fox defense on Paul. I'm going to probably avoid these two guys today, even though he is at home and he does play fairly well at home. Mr. Fox has played very well against a lot of elite point guards thus far this year, at least as from what I'm looking at the statistics. I think he'll be able to do well. Paul probably will get 35, maybe even 40, but I don't think he'll get anything higher than that. Ben Simmons, still waiting to see a couple of games, with Jimmy B there. Kemba Walker, definitely like this matchup against Philly. He's already destroyed them twice this year. I'm going to speak about Kemba Walker here today. This is like the 3rd or 4th time I have recommended him this year. I'm definitely going to have some exposure to him. My only concerns with this game with Kemba Walker is that Philadelphia now has Jimmy B on the team, and we don't know if he's going to get a little bit of Jimmy B defense. I think not, but maybe more than likely they may make some changes there because he has lit them up in 2 games this year. He has lit them up already. So Kemba Walker, let's go right to him. 26 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 42.9, pretty much 43 fantasy points per game at 8,800. You need about 44. And on DK, he is too expensive. I'm telling you, if you play DK, do not play Kemba Walker on DK. He is 9,500. I'm going to give you a better option. It's one of the first times I'm going to do that here because I have DK viewers here as well. I think most of the people that come on here are FanDuel, but DK viewers, and I do play on DK, I will have exposure to Kyle Lowry today. I think Kyle Lowry with the same 50-point upside or better than Kemba in a very favorable matchup versus Chicago is a nice play at 7,800. You're going to get pretty much almost the same value that you will get with Kemba Walker here if he puts up those 40 to 45 or 50, which he is capable of. He's 50-point upside, so Kyle Lowry will be the play for me as far as a stud on DK today. So I'm recommending my viewers on DK, do not play Kemba Walker. But on FanDuel at 8,800, I will take a stab at him, and I think he's a fine play here on FanDuel at that price. Definitely on DK, he is not at 9,500. I'm not paying 9,500 for Kemba Walker on DK. But here at 8,800, you need 44. He's putting up about 43 fantasy points per game. We're going to come here. He's been a little bit in a little, downward trend in the last few games, but Kemba Walker bounced right back. I mean, 54 and 50 the last 2 times. He was in a little bit of a downward trend. He came back with 50, 54. He's in that same 2-game streak again now. He'll bounce back here today. He has tore Philadelphia this year against Philly. 55 spot and a 60 spot in the first 2 games against Philly thus far this year. Look at the usage rate, over 30% in both games over here, 47%. 35 and 40 minutes per game, and then the shots are going to, he is their main offensive weapon. They don't have nobody up front. Marvin Williams is not a major scorer. Cody Zeller is not going to get it done. This is the Kemba Walker show. He is the lone superstar on this team for Charlotte. He has to take massive shots. Other than him, the next best guy is Jeremy Lamb and Nicholas Batum. And Lamb has actually been playing a lot better than Batum so far this year. So Kemba Walker in play, man. The numbers are just outrageous. You know he's going to have the usage rate. You know he's going to have the shots. You know he's going to take tons of 3. He's going to take massive, massive shots. And when you can get that many opportunities, you got to at least give him a stab, especially for 8,800 in a matchup where he should do fairly well. He's played against Philly. Philly's coming in here 10th in defending point guards, but they have had trouble with Kemba. They're 15th in fantasy points per game allowed this year, which is fairly good, but they haven't been able to have an answer for Kemba Walker. They have allowed 30 fantasy points per game thus far this year. They gave up 55 and 60 to Kemba, 40 to Kyle Lowry, and 54 to Mr. Connolly. So, these are the only 3 or 4 guys that they've faced that are really a top tier point guards. So unless they put Jimmy B on him, which I think they still have to be concerned with Jeremy Lamb, if you try to neutralize Kemba, which I would think that would be my strategy as a coach, then definitely you will want to pay up and play Jeremy Lamb, who's I think 5,400 or something like that, 5,500. We'll get to him in a moment. But again, here definitely love Kemba Walker. And like I said, on DK, Kyle Lowry definitely is in play for me on DK. Going up against Chicago, they're 21st. He has been on a little bit of a downward trend. Now, granted, these guys, he's coming off a back-to-back. He's on the front end of a back-to-back. He played last night. He did play 43 minutes last night in that game against Boston, and he didn't shoot particularly well. So this may be a bounce-back game. He's been on a downward trend for about 4 or 5 games now. But Kyle Lowry at 7,800 on DK, he is an awesome, awesome play today going up against, like I said, going up against Chicago, 21st in defending point guards this year, 26th in the league as far as fantasy points per game allowed, and they're giving up 39.7, pretty much 40 fantasy points per game. Definitely a nice position for Kyle Lowry to have an awesome game. They have given up 48 to Bledsoe, 40 to Mr. Irving, 50 to Drew Holiday, 58 to Oladipo, and 51 to Curry. And Lowry's right there in that same vicinity, should be able to get 40 or better. I think he's definitely a nice lock play on DK today. And I will have exposure to him here as well on FanDuel. But for my viewers, I stress it, do not play Kemba Walker at 9,500 on DK unless you really want to. Save the money, go down to 7,900 and pay for Kyle Lowry. All right, let's move on. As far as value at point guard, my value play, obviously, to the injury to Mr. Rajon Rondo, you got to consider Lonzo Ball. Now, granted, the matchup is not an easy one for him. It's not an easy one. This team has actually been playing fairly well against guards. I mean, DJ Augustin is not a bad defender. He has held down a couple of guys. But before I get to that, let's go over Lonzo Ball's numbers here. Pretty much 9 points per game, 5 rebounds a game. He's pretty much balanced all the way through across the board. 5 pretty much assists per game, averaging 24 fantasy points per game at 5,600. You need 28 here on FanDuel. On DK, he's 5,400, so you need about 27 there. So the numbers are just about right everywhere. He's averaging, like I said, 24. Let's go over here to the cruncher, and let's look at Mr. Ball. As you can see, last 2 games, the minutes have crept up, and that's obviously due to the injury to Rajon Rondo. 32 minutes in the last game, 16, pretty much 17 usage rate. He took 11 shots, was 4 of 11. Needs to be a little more efficient there, 3 of 5 from 3. He did get 6 rebounds, had 3 assists, and had a steal. He's capable of defending. He'll get his occasional steals. He's actually have had 5 games in a row where he's put up at least 1 steal or better. And he's, his usage rate is pretty much about 15%. The minutes are about 25, 26 at the moment. And as far as shots concerned, he's taking about, maybe about 8 on average per game right now. He's going to get a bump there. He's probably going to need to take a few more. Obviously, LeBron will do a little bit of point guard as well, play the point as well. But again, Lonzo Ball, I think, is a nice, fine play here at 5,600, knowing the bump in minutes due to the injury to Rajon Rondo. Orlando is 23rd in defending point guards this year, 18th in fantasy points allowed to point guards this year, giving up 27.2 fantasy points per game. The only ones that have put up some decent numbers against them, against DJ Augustin, has been John Wall. In 2 games, he put up 48 and 51 against these guys. And Mr. George Hill surprisingly put up 46 on this team earlier in the year. But look at the guys he has shut down. DJ Augustin has defended every one of these players. Bledsoe, he held him to 21. Fox to 24, Beverly to 14, Reggie Jackson 17, and the biggest name here out of all those guys, other than Bledsoe and Fox, is Mr. Ben Simmons. He held him to 24 fantasy points in that game. So again, That's the only thing I'm concerned with, is being able to be shut down by DJ Augustin. But I do believe, for as far as the price and as far as what the upside is, that this guy Ball can get you 40, 35, 40 in a matchup like this. He's going to get a bump in minutes. I think he is someone you should definitely consider at that price range. We go over to shooting guard. And a shooting guard for me today, I'm going down to Jimmy B. He played last night. Now, my only concerns with this is right now at this moment, I haven't heard that he has asked to get a rest today. He played 40 minutes or so last night. We'll get to that right now. He actually played 37 minutes, my fault. Still a lot of minutes. I expect him to play today. And at 8,400, he is not a bad play for me here at all. He is 7,900 on DK. So we get here 21 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 41 fantasy points per game. At 8,004, you need 42. And on DK at 7,900, you really only need about 30, 38, 39. 38, 39, very much attainable. He's at that range right now. That price range is pretty darn good on DK. A guy who has 50, 55-point upside. Got 45 last night in 37 minutes against Utah. Put up 28 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists. We come over here to Jimmy B. Let me just clean this up here. Jimmy B. And again, we know the usage rate is going to be there. This is his second game with this team. Already is at 20 and 23% usage rate. He already has taken 27 shots from the floor. He shot 12 of 15 last night. He shot beautifully last night, 2 of 3 from 3. And then, of course, he got to the foul line, and he can rebound, assist. He does it all, okay? 5-2 all the way across the board, steals, everything. So Jimmy B, definitely someone that I'm going to consider here, 8,400. Definitely has the upside, will have the minutes. He's going up against Charlotte, 19th in defending shooting guards this year, 16th in fantasy points per game allowed, only allowing 23.8, pretty much 24 fantasy points per game. They haven't faced a whole lot of good opposition. They have faced Mr. Zach LaVine is the only one they have really faced. It's a true good one of the top tier point guard shooting guards. 41 he put up in one game, and he played him a second time. He put up 28. Josh Richardson put up 27, Bazemore 35, and Bullock 32. So Reggie Bullock and Ken Bazemore could put up 35 and 32 respectively. I think Jimmy Butler has an opportunity here to definitely get 40 or better. So Jimmy Butler is my stud play at shooting guard. The longest he plays, hopefully there's not a change of heart and he tells the coaches he needs a day off. As far as value, I really love Mr. Evan Fournier here today at 6,100 going up against the Lakers. He's coming in 16 points per game, pretty much close to 3 rebounds a game, 4 assists, averaging 27.9, pretty much 28 fantasy points per game at 6,100. You need 30 from him. And on DK, he's 5,600. You need about 27, 28 over there. Very much attainable for him. He's at that point right now as far as an average. And then the minutes are there. Let's come over here to the Fantasy Cruncher and Mr. Fournier. Numbers, he's been trending downward. No doubt about it. 9, 31, and 23 in the last 3 games. But prior to that, he had 5 straight solid games. We know he has 40, 45-point upside. That's the beauty, especially for GPP. He's definitely someone to consider. And as you can see here, the minutes are there. He's pretty much averaging 26, I would say about 28, 29 minutes a game, maybe even close to 30. His usage rate is up there. Pretty darn good, about 25, 26% on average, maybe even closer to 27% over the last 4 or 5 games. He's going to take shots. He's a key offensive player on this team for Orlando. If he doesn't score enough, they're not going to win. It's between him, Vukovich, are the key 2 guys that you can count on, as well as Aaron Gordon. They're the key 3 players there. But as you can see, his shots are there too. 14 to 15 shots, pretty much 15, I would say, per game. And he also takes threes. He takes about maybe 5 or 6 threes, maybe even 7 on the average per game. He gets some assists. He'll do a couple of rebounds, and he definitely can defend a little bit. As you can see, he's capable of getting some steals. He's a shooter. He's a shooter that is capable of getting some other things done. He has that 40, 45 point upside. That's the thing that I like the most. And I also like the fact that he's going up against the Lakers. The Lakers are 13th in defending shooting guards thus far this year. That is not too bad, but they are 24th in the league as far as fantasy points per game given up to shooting guards this year. They're allowing a whopping right now, especially over the last 5 games, 36.5 fantasy points per game to shooting guards. They have given up 39 and 35 to 2 games to C.J. McCollum, 46 to Ken Bazemore, 38 to Okogie, and 49 to Jimmy B before he left Minnesota. Now, Fournier, he is a shooter. I see him as a C.J. McCollum and a Mr. Bazemore. These are guys that definitely shoot threes, shoot from the perimeter very well. That's where Fournier is at. And these guys were able to put up 39, as much as up to 46 by Bazemore. I could see Evan Fournier being able to put 40 or better in this matchup today. I definitely love him here at 6,100. So he is my value play of the day as far as shooting guard. We go to small forward. That small forward, man, you got the big dogs up on top. James, Durant, Paul George. Hey, all these guys, man, you know, the guys that are in the best possible positions. Obviously, LeBron James against Orlando is a good matchup for him. KD going up against Dallas is another good matchup. And, of course, Paul George going up against Phoenix. They're all in favorable matchups. I will have some exposure. I don't know whom I'm going to have exposure to yet. I do believe that I do like KD's matchup with Dallas, and I do like LeBron James' matchup against Orlando. But I don't know if I want to pay that kind of money for them. So me, like always, I'm always trying to give you guys options here. Those guys are available. I'm not going to tell you that they're not playable. I think they're in favorable matchups. It's just that with LeBron, you need 60. With Durant, you need 55 plus. And with George, you need 50 plus. Those are big, big numbers when you have opportunity to maybe get some guys that are pretty close. They could probably get you close to 35, 40 fantasy points, and they're going to cost you 20 or 30, 2 to 3, or maybe even $4,000 cheaper. Then you have to always have that option there. So my first option of the day and my stud of the day, not that I'm saying I'm not going to have any exposure to these guys. I will. I just don't know whom I'm going to have the most exposure to right now. But I know I make multiple lineups, and I will have either some James or Paul or Mr. KD. But I'm going to come down to T.J. Warren at 6,900. Been hot as hell. He's been rejuvenated. They finally realized he is definitely one of their top scorers. Booker's having a subpar year thus far, and T.J. Warren has been spelling relief, especially as far as offense is concerned. 17 points, 4 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 28 fantasy points per game. At 6,300, you need pretty much 34 from him. And on DK, he is 6,000. You need 30. Very much attainable for Mr. T.J. Warren, especially the way he's been playing. He's been trending upward for the last 4 games. 36 plus in 4 straight games. That is smashing his average of 28 per game. The minutes are there, 36 minutes or better over the last 4 games, as high as 40 and 41 minutes. He's been truly been, someone that they definitely needed to get going here offensively for Phoenix, and he's been getting it done. Look at those numbers. Look at the minutes. The usage rate is there, pretty much about 22-23%. The shots, he's going to get them 16 to 17 pretty much on average over the last 4 games. He's taking threes, anywhere between maybe 5 or 6 on average per game. He had 10 here and 8 here. Can get to the foul line, as you can see. Very good free throw shooter. Has not missed a shot in 3 out of the last 4 games as far as on the free throw line. Can get you some rebounds. He's not a big passer, okay, because he's more of a scorer. And the defense has been really, really good. 3 steals in the last game, 2 steals and 1 block. I mean, he's had 5 blocks in the last 4 games and 7 steals. And he double digits all the way through. 27 from the floor, 21, 25, 29. Yeah, T.J. Warren, man, is definitely in play for me. He is going up against OKC. And another thing is, he has played already OKC twice already. He put up a 30 and a 36 spot against them. He put up 36 here at a 58 price tag. Obviously, that price tag is a lot better than the 69. He's going to need to put up some nice numbers here today, which I think he's capable of doing. But again, the numbers are there. Going up against this team, OKC, 6th in defense versus small forwards, 14th in fantasy points per game allowed to small forwards, which is very, very good as far as in the league. Only allowing 15.8 fantasy points, pretty much 16 fantasy points per game. And you say to yourself, hey man, who has he faced? Who has OKC faced in this position to see how well they really have truly done? And they have gone down, and the only player that has put up at least a 40 spot or better on them was Mr. Doncic of Dallas, the young kid. Other than that, they have not faced anybody that's really, really that good of a small forward. They faced J.R. Smith, Osman, P.J. Tucker, Ariza, Vonleh, Ennis, and Kevin Knox of the Knicks. That is it. Those are the players they have faced. OKC. So they have not faced a lot of true elite small forwards. Not somebody that's a scoring machine like TJ Warren. So we'll see tonight if OKC can definitely keep that fantasy point total down to 16 fantasy points per game. We got a guy here who's averaging pretty much almost 28, 29 fantasy points a game. So something's got to give, right? All right. After TJ Warren, I am all over. As far as small forwards, I'm going to come down a little bit lower, and there's a couple of guys here, man, that I'm just going to mention both of them. First guy I'm going to mention is Tyreke Evans, and I've mentioned him one time before during the course of this year thus far, saying that, and I've said it time and time again, Indiana is not utilizing this guy. They're not giving him the minutes. He's not playing more than enough minutes. He has to play. Give this guy some minutes. Come on, coach. What's going on? The guy can score. He's proven over the last few years that he can be an elite scorer in this league. So TE here, man, 11 points, only 3 rebounds a game, pretty much 2.5 assists a game, and 21 fantasy points at 4,200. You really only need 21. And he is 3,900 on DK, only 19, 20. Pretty much you need 20 from him in either one of the two platforms. He is capable of doing that. You got to give him 20 or more minutes per game. He got 25 2 days ago, or actually last night, and he put up 23 points and 10 rebounds, a double-double with 2 assists and 1 block, put up 40 fantasy points. So we know now he has 40-point upside, but we knew that coming in. I knew that from watching him over the years. He's capable of scoring. He could put 40 points up if he plays more than enough minutes. So last night, maybe. We'll see. It's tough because it's the front end of a back-to-back. May see minimal minutes today, maybe not. But I think he is just still a little too cheap. You still got to take advantage of the discount before his price is up at about $6,000 or $7,000. If they could start playing this guy 25 to 30 minutes, he will put up 30 to 35 fantasy points a game. I could assure you he can definitely do it, but they got to get him the ball and get him on the court. So let's move over here. And let's take a look at him a little bit more, Tyreke Evans. And, 30% usage rate just on that 25 minutes last night. He took 13 shots, hit 6 of 3 and 5 of 7 from 3. He got to the foul line, didn't miss a shot. Every time he's been on the foul line, in the last 3 games, he has not missed a free throw. He's gotten rebounds, 10 and 3. 10 rebounds yesterday is really, really great. It's out of his league. He normally is about a 4 or 5 rebound a game guy, but he's capable of doing a little bit of everything, especially even defend. And last night he had 1 block. The game before that had 2 steals and a block. So the guy can steal, he can defend, he can score. He just needs to get minutes and get some usage while he's on the floor, gets a couple of touches, let him take a few shots. If he starts burying them, definitely feed the guy, because when he is hot, he can definitely just really light it up. So Tyreke Evans is definitely someone I am going to have some exposure to if he definitely is going to be playing tonight. Versus Atlanta, they're 29th, as you can see here, defending small forwards, 28th in fantasy points allowed to small forwards this year in the league. That's near the bottom, allowing 30.3 fantasy points per game. Gave up in the last game to Juancho Hernan-Gomez, 39 fantasy points, man. If Juancho could get 39, Tyreke Evans can get 39. They did give up 46 to Durant, 42 to James, and 46 to Mr. Justice Winslow. So they have had their issues with some of the bigger, stronger guys, and Tyreke is a pretty strong guy as well. Other than Tyreke Evans, if you're not going to play Tyreke Evans, I'm going to throw in there also Mr. Juancho. I've had Juancho 2 times out of the last 3 or 4 games he's played, and he's come through time and time again. He's getting the minutes. He is starting. And 29, 38, and 31 minutes, man, 4,100. You only need 20 again. He's also 4,100 on DK. Basically, you need 20 fantasy points, and he's been able to do that. Pretty much 20 against Houston, and almost a 40 spot, a 39 spot last night against the other night against Atlanta. So Juancho Hernan-Gomez, definitely someone to consider going up against New Orleans Pelicans. They're 19th in defending small forwards, 15th in fantasy points allowed. They're allowing 27.7 fantasy points per game. So I think he has an excellent chance to do very well against this team. We're going to move over to power forward. And at power forward, man, obviously AD monster game last night. I did have a little exposure to him, which I said I would. I wouldn't consider him a core, but he was good last night. Big, long game, a lot of fantasy points, 74.9, 40 minutes in his last 2 games. Yeah, I mean, he's in play. The number is pretty high. You need about 65, 70, 65 points or so. It's a big number. Let's just put it that way. So, I mean, again, we're going to come down. I was going to consider Aaron Gordon, but I heard this game time decision out of nowhere earlier. They posted that he has some soreness in his ankle, so we'll see what's going on there. There is going to be some value opening up for Draymond Green, obviously, so that's somewhere to consider. I'm coming all the way down, man. I'm going to stick to Siakam. I gave you guys Siakam yesterday. I'm going back to the well of Siakam. He's been playing so well. He fouled out late in yesterday's game, but he's been playing solid. He is definitely a good cash play for you cash play players out there. I know sometimes you guys do ask me for cash play. I mean, he's been so consistent and so good, especially over the last 4 or 5 games. You have to consider him at least for cash, even if he's off. As you can see here, his bottom number is 27. So, I mean, at 6,500, you need about 33. So that is not too bad if that was the case, and he has 40-point upside. So Mr. Pascal Siakam is in play for me today again. 14 points, pretty much 6.5 rebounds, 2 assists, 29 fantasy points per game, 6,500. You need about 32, 33 on DK. He's 6,200, so you pretty much just need 31. 29 plus in 5 out of the last 6, 7 games for him. So he has been just absolutely fantastic for the Raptors. Look at all this green. He has 40-point upside, close to 50-point upside. Usage rate is not going to be really huge, maybe anywhere between 16-17% on average, but he makes good use of that usage rate. He gets more than enough touches, as you can see, 11 to maybe 12 shots per game from the floor, and he's getting about 2 or 3 threes on average as well per game. Decent free throw shooter, as you can see. He gets the rebounds. He's actually passing the ball a little bit, and then he brings the defense. He blocks shots. He gets some steals. He is very, very active, very, very good. He's come a long way from last year, and that's one of the reasons why he is one of the more important pieces to this Toronto team now, especially in the front court. They're going up against Chicago, 25th in defense against power forwards, 25th also in fantasy points per game allowed to power forwards thus far this year, allowing 35.2 fantasy points per game. They gave a 50 to Giannis, 71 to Davis, 36 to Millsap, 36 to Draymond Green, and they gave up 35 to Larry Nance Jr. as well. So I think Mr. Siakam should be in prime position to get his 35 to 40 fantasy points or better here as well. So Siakam in play. Come down here, you want something of value. I think my concerns are Millsap. He can get into foul trouble time and time. Again, a little concern there. I think his matchup still 6,300 is cheap for Millsap, but I'm willing to go with his teammate, Trey Lyles, at 4,600. I think Trey Lyles will be a nice consideration here today for us. 4,600. He's averaging 11 points, 5 rebounds, pretty much 2 assists a game at 21 fantasy points per game. 4,600. You need pretty much 23 on DK. He's 4,400, so you need about 22 there, 22 points, and he's averaging 21. So very, very, very close. I feel that, again, he's a guy that can get you 30. As you can see, he got 30 pretty much points there. Let's just go over to the fantasy cruncher, Mr. Lyles. And we're okay. Yep, Trey Lyles right here. And as you can see, he has almost 40-point upside. He's done it before. The usage rate has been good. When he's on the floor, he gets touches and he gets good use. As you can see, anywhere between, on the average, he's getting about maybe 8 to 9 on average shots a game, but he's very efficient when he does get them. And he takes a few threes, not expecting anything big from the three-point stripe from him. But he can get to the foul line, shoot the ball well. He gets rebounds. He passes the ball quite a bit as good as well. And he brings a little bit of shot blocking, a little bit of steals. What I like is that his price at 4,600, he's definitely something he can attain. He can definitely get you 23 to 25 on a regular basis, but I like the fact that he can get 30-point upside, and I also like the fact that if this game gets a little out of control as far as Mr. Millsap getting into foul trouble, he's going to get a little bump in minutes. He'll play a little bit more. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I think with Mr. Lyles. All right. Okay, so there we go. So let's move on. Trey Lyles, good value play, I think, for us here today. We go over to center, and at center, man, Joel Embiid, game time decision now with the hand injury. Jokic in play, Vukovich. I am on Mr. Nikolai Vukovich today. I really love this price here on him. 8,600 on FanDuel. He's 8,400 on DK. This is a guy who's got 60-point upside, and his price is fairly cheap. I mean, going averaging pretty much a double-double every time he's on the court. 18, pretty much 19 points per game, almost 11 rebounds on average per game, 3.5 assists, 41.6. Let's round that off to about 42 fantasy points per game. At 8,006, you'll need 4,300. And on DK, he's 8,400. You need 42, and he's averaging 42. As you can see, he got a 50 spot in his last game. He's been pretty much at 40 or better for about the majority of the season. As you can see with the 41, let's go over to the cruncher. And Mr. Vukovich, the usage rate is there. I mean, he's getting about 25-26% usage rate. He is an integral part of this offense. He is getting he's getting, I would say about maybe 15 on average shots per game. If you break this all down, maybe 15, 16. And then he's able to hit a couple of threes. He takes about 2 or 3 threes a game. Pretty much only lands one. But he gets the rebounds. He's able to pass the ball. And most importantly, the defense, steals, blocks. He brings that all to the table. And then, of course, he can score. So he's a scorer, shot blocker, rebounder, you name it. To me, he's one of the top 5 centers in his league as far as his skill set. He's not the greatest defender that you can score on him as well. But he definitely puts up a lot of freaking shots, and he's able to put up some large, big numbers. Like I said, he's got 60-point upside. He got a 64 here against Philly earlier in the year. And he's going up here against the Lakers. The Lakers are 26 in defending centers, as you can see here. 24th in fantasy points allowed to centers this year in the league. They're allowing 39.9. Let's round that off to 40 fantasy points per game to centers. They're really struggling up front with JaVale McGee. As far as him, he's defended every one of the centers they have faced. They have faced some really, really good guys. Nurkic has played them twice, put up 40 and 58 in 2 respective games. Ibaka put up 54 against these guys. Jokic put up 42. And Mr. Karl Anthony Towns put up a 63 and a 38 against them in 2 matchups, all against Mr. McGee, who defended them. I think Mr. Vukovich is in good situation in a good spot today to put up 50 or better in this game. I really love his price, and I really love the matchup. So Vukovich is my stud center. And then stay in the same game. I mean, if you wanted to pay down and save yourself possibly $2,000, you can go with Mr. McGee, because Vukovich has his issues in as far as defending centers as well. And I don't know if he's going to be able to. McGee is not going to put up 50 or so on him. He's capable of it because he has done it already this year. But I don't know if he'll be able to put up 50 on Vooch. But McGee is definitely someone to consider as well if you want to pay down. 6,500, 14.7 rebounds, 34 fantasy points per game. At 6,500, you need pretty much 32, 33, which is below his average. And on DK, he's 6K on the nose. We only need 30, which I think he's capable of getting. He's gotten 30 just in the last 2 games alone. He's been on a downward trend. Now he's trending back up, 31 and 35 over his last 2 games. Let's take a look at him a little closer here on the cruncher and look at his usage rate and all. And usage rate pretty much there, pretty much about 18, 19%. And I see as far as field goals, maybe about 9 or 10 field goals a game on average. He gets to the foul line, not as much as you will want to for a big man, but he could definitely get you some rebounds. And he's another guy that could go out there and get some steals and blocks. Look at this. He has had 7 blocks in the last 3 games and 4 steals. Those are some big fantasy points. If you're not at least getting some scoring or not getting at least to the foul line as a big guy, you definitely want to get the rebounds and get blocks and steals. If you can do that, stay that active with your feet and your hands, you'll be just fine. It's going up against Orlando. Orlando, as you can see, 28th. They actually are ranked lower and worse than the Lakers. 28th in defending centers this year. They are 21st in fantasy points per game allowing 33.6. So they are allowing at least 6 fantasy points less than the Lakers are as far as with big men. They have given up 53 to Embiid, 58 to Drummond, 44 to Tristan Thompson, and they have put up, and then there's a couple of guys that put up some 30s. Mr. Mitchell Robinson of the Knicks put up 36, and Dwight Howard put up 35 against them. And that's more in the ballpark of what Ms. JaVale McGee may be able to give. But I think still Vukovich is the best play. Again, I'm offering him as a value play because I believe he can definitely get you value and maybe crush it by a few more fantasy points going up against Vukovich. But Vukovich, is capable of getting you 60. His upside is greater, so that's one of the reasons why he is the stud. And that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. I normally don't go for cheap plays at center. I don't have anybody there on budget. But again, man, video down in the video description, man. I'll add another link for the chat, for the Slack chat. We've been getting guys in there. We're almost I think almost every day we pick up a few more people that come in there, interact and talk with us prior to lock. Another thing, also, make sure you comment down below. We can go back and forth there. I know some people always come out and they always ask questions there as well. You can do that. I'll do everything I can to get back to you. I know it's Saturday and Sundays are a little bit more busier. I do try to find some family time. I do have to upload the NFL video, which I completed. I got to upload that as well. So you got that coming your way too for those who are viewers of the NFL videos that I do. That's coming up anytime now as well. So that's basically it, man. Good luck today in today's slate, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for tomorrow's slate.